Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to be here with you today to talk about tips for navigating this intense world and the end of pitta season, which is when pitta really peaks within and around us. So it's a wild time at the moment, and we've got some really great Ayurvedic tips for navigating that.
That's right. And I am Molly McConnell.
And I'm Sierra Brashear.
And we are the founders and the certified Ayurvedic practitioners behind Cultivate Balance.
And the mission of Cultivate Balance is to build individual and collective resiliency as an emergent strategy to support us to embody the just and sustainable world that we know is possible. Mm-hmm. We're really on a mission to leverage Ayurveda as a tool for navigating this world, right? Even though it's a really ancient science, there is so much that it has to offer us in the world today. It's a really, truly timeless wisdom.
Yes, absolutely.
So in today's workshop, we are going to first, we're going to start off with a little guided meditation. We're going to really feel into the body. And then we'd love for you to just share how you're feeling. You can type it into the chat box. And then we'll get into pitta. Like, what is pitta? Why is it so great? And then what can happen if it becomes out of balance, right?
And what does it have to do with heat and intensity and some of these other themes that we're talking about that might be a little more familiar to you than the concept of pitta itself? We'll start to draw some of those connections in this workshop
and give you some real life, like really bring it home to where you might be at in life right now, knowing that, there's a lot of pressure. We're all sort of in a little pressure cooker right now. And we want to really acknowledge that and give tools for navigating it. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll dive in and be ready to share some responses if you'd like. We'd love your participation. We'd love to hear from you so we can really make it a more lively discussion. So
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and just start by centering in our bodies. So I invite you to sit comfortably and find some stability. So for me, that means putting both my feet on the floor, grounding my hands down onto the tops of my thighs. We'll go ahead and shrug the shoulders up and back a couple times. Maybe turn the head from side to side. Moving from side to side and up and down can help us articulate where the center of our body is a little bit more. So take any movement that your body is asking for as you come into your center and into a stable, grounded, seated position. When you're ready, make your way to stillness or something close to stillness that's comfortable in your body. And you can start to close the eyes or take a soft gaze in front of you. Just notice the breath. Notice how it flows in through the nostrils and out. Notice how when you inhale, you might feel yourself sitting a little taller. You might feel the tiniest expansion of the heart. And as you exhale, you might really feel yourself drop back down into your center. You might feel the connection of your seat to the earth or the chair below you. See if you can let your breath get a little deeper. Inhaling a little more fully and exhaling a little more completely. And just let the breath flow through you. Now, as you do, bring your attention inside your body. You might do that by feeling your attention follow your breath up and down the spine to start. And then see if there are any places within you, any sensations, anything that's calling for attention. See where your breath wants to go in the body. What do you notice? Do you notice tightness in the jaw? Do you notice tension on one side? An itch, an urge to move? Do you notice activity in the mind? Whatever you're noticing is perfect. It's all welcome here in this moment. When we practice Ayurveda and when we invite others into the practice of Ayurveda, what we're really doing is coming into the practice of listening to our bodies. And today in this workshop, we'll talk about how listening to our bodies and noticing the sensations that we're experiencing can be information about what imbalances are coming up and also what our bodies are needing to return to balance, which is helpful information in light of the equinox as well. So take just another moment or two to notice what you're feeling, what's coming up in your body. And as you're ready, let yourself arrive back in the space. Maybe blink the eyes open. Look at a couple objects around you just to reorient. You could take a little movement of the shoulders, of the head. You could rub the legs on the thighs or the hands on the thighs just to come back into your body. So for me, what came up in noticing the sensations in my body is that stillness feels really good right now. And it's not something I've been prioritizing. So it also feels kind of challenging and unfamiliar. So navigating both of those, did you experience something similar?
Yeah, well, what comes up for me is actually impatience, which is not unfamiliar to me as a pitta. And that as someone who embodies a lot of pitta, I tend to have a lot of impatience. And so I notice it in my body, like, not that I'm wanting to rush through what we're doing, but just like where it's like,
right.
Like
your thought is like on to the next action, maybe. Or
yeah.
Totally. Would anyone like to share about what came up for them, what sensations or experiences or thoughts they noticed in the body during that centering practice?
You can type into the chat box if that's easiest. You can also unmute if you would like, or let us know if you'd like us to unmute you. You're also welcome to share. If you're not comfortable sharing a feeling or thought that came up for you, you're also welcome to share what brought you here. What are you noticing when you read the description of the workshop talking about, are you feeling the heat? What came up for you? Was your answer yes? And you know, how are you feeling the heat? Are you feeling something in your body? Are you feeling something in your mind? Are you navigating a situation, you know, in your life or in the world that feels like pressure? You're welcome to share. And if no one's comfortable sharing, we can give some examples as well of some of the reasons why we, you know, the conversations that we're having with people and among each other that are bringing this conversation to our minds as well. So.
And for those of you not with us live, watching this recording later, we invite you to just reflect on what brought you to this workshop as well. I know you can't share in real time, but reflect and use that to kind of set the context of why you're here and what you're hoping to receive.
Yeah, so we have, I deal with physical pain and I've been avoiding sitting with it lately, right? And this is, you know, pain often is a vata symptom, but, you know, again, that impatience of not wanting to sit with it, that's, you know, can be pitta.
Inflammation, pain related to inflammation, which is like a heat and irritation in the body, can also be related to pitta. So,
and there's so much psychosomatic, right? Like when we're under pressure, when we're feeling so much about the world, we can store things like in our body and things get lodged in our body. And when we're not, you know, detoxifying, when we're not soothing, when we're not giving ourselves space and time to rest and reflect, you know, those things that get stored can really flare up. So
And we can also store things in our body based on the impacts of climate change. Our planet is getting hotter, right? That's one of the reasons why we're having this workshop. Burnout related to work, taking on too many tasks because of how capitalism tells us we need to get things done, for example.
And feeling like we need to work harder to make ends meet, right? Like we have inflation, and combined with, the rising cost, like it's all like really coming to a head right now, and it's feeling really stressful. So that, is, as well as some really intense geopolitical conversations that also interestingly sort of center around fire, right? Like there's a conflict going on, war, and there's like a nuclear component. It's like very heated. We're in a heated moment.
Right. And fire can support us in a lot of ways also. So we're going to talk about that too, right? Fire isn't pitta, the fire dosha isn't inherently bad. It's actually like so amazing when in balance, when in balance.
Yes.
And that's something important to consider as well. So we want to talk about what thriving fire pitta energy looks like, and also kind of validate the experiences that many of you and we are having around excess fire in the world around us.
Yes. So everyone has pitta dosha inside of them. Some people have a heightened pitta, like it might be your dominant dosha, it might be your second dominant dosha, but no matter what, you definitely have pitta inside of you. And this fiery dosha is responsible for things like passion and drive, determination, discernment is a really important one, organization, having like a focus and a sharp intellect, and also being really solutions oriented. So we need pitta people, you need the pitta inside of you, the world needs pitta to go round. And that's why, summertime can be, so right now we're on the very edge of summer with the end of summer, and summer is this really, really activated time, right? Like we're all going out, we're blasting off in a lot of ways. Everyone's really busy doing a lot of stuff.
The days are longer, the sun is brighter if you're in this hemisphere.
The northern hemisphere,
That's
yeah.
right.
And so it's a really, really, sorry, we're going to say something.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, so it's a really, really activated time. And as summer goes along in the northern hemisphere, well, in either hemisphere, but when the heat actually accumulates, and at the equinox or at this end of summer moment is when pitta, or this heat, is at its highest. And it's at this moment actually that in India, they would say that if water comes like in fall, and you get those like fall rains and it splashes onto the heat of the pitta, it actually creates like a steam room. Like if you think of a sauna where you're throwing the water on the hot rocks and it's like, psh, and that's when the heat goes. It's hot.
Which means that pitta in us is more prone to aggravation. So even though you might think, oh, I just need some cooling water, the fire is so hot right now that we have to be really mindful of that. And if you think of this idea of heat building and building and building over the summer, because maybe you're like, well, it's not actually that much hotter than it was a couple months ago. Like if you sit in front of a fireplace or get in a hot tub, you get in at first and you're like, oh, this feels so nice. And it's the building and building and building over time of being like, I can't sustain sitting in this hot tub any longer. And that is kind of the energy of the end of pitta season. We are truly met with our internal limits of how much fire we can handle, unless we're doing things to keep it balanced, which we'll talk about today.
And similarly, I want to parallel that with work and how we're showing up, right? Like oftentimes we are, as they say, burning the candle at both ends, where we're working, and showing up in all these ways, right? Like we're working for a job, we're showing up for family, we're showing up for friends, we're doing all of these things, which if we don't take the time to cool down, relax, ground, similarly, it's going to keep building, and we're going to ultimately, as we know it to be called, we're going to burn out. So this language that we use is actually really, really intelligent, right? It's based in some deep wisdom. So it's really important that you use tools to ground, soothe, cool, and just sort of, chill, as we say, as they say.
Right.
Because if left unchecked, do you want to explain what happened?
Yeah, if we're not caring for the fire element within us and we're being impacted by external fire around us, then our fire element starts to increase. And how that shows up is irritability, having a short temper, control-seeking behavior, especially related to stress, exhaustion, burnout, food sensitivities, digestive sensitivity, and if really gone unchecked, it can turn into autoimmune disorders, which is a whole big thing. So it's very important that we balance pitta so that we can access the focus and the passion and the problem-solving skills of the fire element without getting trapped in the irritability and the frustration and the short-tempered components of it.
So take a moment to just think about how pitta is really heightened in you. And even if you want to pause the video and just like write down anything that's showing up for you related to what we've just said, right? Can you think about any symptoms that you're experiencing and also reflect on your life and feel into, wow, am I overworking? Wow, am I showing up all the time? Wow, am I really affected, even if it's on a subconscious level, like thinking about the state of the world and where we're at. Do a little journaling on that.
Another way that can show up is like compromising on your sleep for the sake of getting a project done again and again and again. Any type of buildup where you're going nonstop or more than you would ideally like or need to feel replenished every single day. Because that's the thing about balance and Ayurveda is that you actually can. Totally possible to wake up replenished every day. But if we are working to the point that our fire is burning so hot, we will not feel that replenishment. So what things do you notice are kind of getting in the way for you to not take the time to replenish, for you to not do the things that help you feel your best? And we'll give you more ideas of things that you can do as well.
Yes. So the really beautiful thing is that we all have this really juicy, subtle essence within us that's called ojas. This is a concept in Ayurveda that speaks to our resiliency. It speaks to, or it is what lends to us our immunity, our ability to feel robust and sturdy, especially in relationship to the outside world. It also contributes to our libido. It's really this essence, it is the subtle essence of kapha. So it's earthy, it's watery, and it is this, it is essentially the resiliency, right? It is our ability to interact, is our ability to field the outside world with our own sense of sort of containment and this padding to this out to the outside world. So we all have that, and our job is to cultivate it, is to protect it, is to nourish it. And pitta can tend to burn through it. So that creates something called ojo kashai, which is essentially like adrenal fatigue, like burnout. And so the tools we're going to give you are really about supporting ojas. And turns out it's actually really fun.
That's right.
So one of the first ways that you can support ojas, Molly was just speaking to it, but is really to rest more. And this is like a revolutionary concept in our culture right now, to actually give ourselves permission to rest. We are all so deeply ingrained with this idea that our value is derived from our productivity or from our engagement. And so what can you do to really, prioritize rest? How can you make that happen?
And again, if you prioritize rest, you will support the brilliant, amazing qualities of pitta to come through you. So if you're feeling like, I'm having a hard time focusing like I normally do, focus, the sharpness of focus is a fiery quality. And you can access clear focus if you rest, right? I know people might hear this and think like, yeah, easier said than done. There's a lot of things that I need to do, but I can guarantee you that the quality of your work, of whatever you have to do, will improve when you rest, such that it might actually not take as long to do the thing anyway.
Absolutely. And rest can look like nights of 8 hours sleep and just really protecting that, or 8 hours or more. Like right now, I'm finding that I need more than that to really be able to show up for my day. Rest can also look like taking a 20-minute nap in the afternoon or the morning if you need. Rest can look like sitting in your car, at the grocery store or at your lunch break and closing your eyes for 10 minutes or even 5 minutes, like really just taking a moment to tune into your breath, allowing your full body to relax and just taking that moment. So even if you feel like you are short on time, carving out these little moments again is going to increase your ability to engage with the world. It's not like, oh, rest so that I can be necessarily more productive. It's rest so that you can feel great,
so that you can enjoy what you're doing.
And part of that, also when it comes to resting, it might mean that you actually do need to deprioritize some things. And this is something that we've been really practicing, giving ourselves and giving each other more permission to say, you know what, that doesn't have to happen right now. You know what, you don't actually have to bake those cookies for the bake sale. You don't actually have to go to that, group social event. If you feel like you're on the brink of burnout, just stop. You just don't have to. And it's not like, oh, I'm never going to do that again, or, oh, I'm never going to show up in this way. But in this moment, it is not the priority.
Right. And you know what you're like when you feel your best. And it's true probably that when you feel your best, you want to bake the cupcakes for the fundraiser, but you don't always have to say yes to all of these things. And that's why we want to tune in to the moments when our bodies feel a little different, when we feel a little less resourced, rested, and resilient. That's when we start to bring in some of these practices to rest more, to deprioritize as a way to make a little time to rest more, because that will enable us to come back to feeling our best so that we can say a full active yes to the things that we want to show up for.
Yes. And one of the really cool things about this is that when you actually practice this, you give others permission to do it as well. So what if we started to embody a culture where we were really encouraging one another to take more time rather than pulling on each other, pulling on our friends, or, overexerting ourselves, which then sets this expectation in our friend groups or in our workspaces, or even for our families that we're going to consistently overexert. What if, and then that's the expectation, and then everyone else feels like that's the expectation of them. What if you could create a culture, and we've started to do this in our friendship, in our partnership, in work, to say, wait, I'm gonna rest right now, and that gives the other person also permission to rest. And that's like, wow, how liberating, right? We're protecting our ojas when we do that.
And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to, clients I've talked to, whose like bosses and coworkers pride themselves on how often they get sick, how many times they've worked through their lunch break. And we really want to step away from that. And rather than celebrating that behavior, we want to celebrate people that are really making choices in alignment with care.
Setting boundaries. Yeah. So be a ambassador for, we like to call it align culture, right? As opposed to grind culture. This is a culture that you're aligning with your natural rhythms. So, yeah.
And the dosha pitta is also often associated with leadership, because pittas are good at organizing and directing and kind of laying out a situation. And so this is really an opportunity to exemplify or embody pitta at its best, is to take on that opportunity for just a small amount of leadership, or at least leading by example.
Yeah. So another way that you can cool and soothe pitta right now is to really focus on grounding and cooling nourishment. And so one of the ways you can do that is actually honor your cravings right now. And one thing we will tell you is that the sweet taste is actually a very, very, I think it's the most cooling and grounding taste of the 6 tastes. So not to get carried away with this and eat, a bunch of candy from the convenience store, but to, when you notice that you would like to have something sweet, that you can actually lean into that, because right now that's real medicine. So the sweet taste could show up in the form of like, I like to think of mango sticky rice, like from a Thai restaurant. Mango, wildly ojas supportive, as well as a sweet sticky rice, also just like a basmati rice. That is such a beautiful, sweet, whole, delicious, grounding, nourishing, pitta soothing treat. So, go out and get yourself some mango sticky rice. What else?
Right. Fresh fruit is another really good way to honor a craving for the sweet taste. And it's also just when you have a craving for anything, especially food cravings are a good place to start. I want to invite you to notice what taste you're actually having a craving for. So if you're thinking like, wow, I'm craving ice cream. I'm craving ice cream. I'm craving so much ice cream. If you really think about it, are you craving ice cream? And maybe you are, and sometimes that's like just the right thing. But you might actually just be craving the sweet taste. It might actually be your pitta calling for something sweet to soothe, cool, and ground you. So honor your cravings as they come, and also interrogate them a little bit just to make sure, because oftentimes a craving for something like ice cream, which can be a little challenging for digestion, can actually be pivoted to a craving for something else that has the same qualities or the sweet taste.
Yes. And so the sweet taste, like, for example, you could have instead of ice cream, you could have a date or two. And that is going to be not only satisfy that sweet taste craving, but also going to be nourishing to ojas. This sweet taste is so nourishing to ojas, and you can really feel it when you eat it. It feels like the sweet taste is also associated with love, like the sensation, the feeling of love. So it feels like you're being wrapped in a hug, which is why people tend to crave ice cream when they're going through a breakup or something like that. You're actually just craving that, like that loving nourishment, and you can satisfy it in a really responsible, intentional way. Other things are honey, is a really great one. Basmati rice, almonds. We like to soak our almonds.
Coconut, like a coconut milk drink or an almond milk drink, also like a golden milk type thing, is a great way to combine some of those things to get the sweet taste.
Pistachio. And also, we don't want to demonize ice cream. I think ice cream right now, in peak pitta season, if you get like a really quality, whole milk ice cream made with like real sugar, like you don't need a bunch of fillers and gums and all these things. But if you get just a really real ice cream and you eat like one small scoop of it, medicine right now.
Right. Especially if you have a lot of fire and your digestion is robust to digest, absorb, and assimilate that. If you're craving ice cream and having a really low appetite, probably don't dampen it with that. But high quality ice cream in a hot season with a strong appetite is going to be just fine.
And we'll talk about some ways to make sure that your digestion is feeling robust as well. So another thing is staying hydrated. So we talked about how ojas is this really juicy essence, right? So juiciness requires hydration. And so again, like as summer goes on, it can be pretty drying. And so we get to this point where we could be a bit dried out. So hydrating with cooling beverages. So anything made with mint, cilantro, aloe juice, coconut water, pomegranate juice. What am I forgetting here?
Well, and just to clarify, when we say cooling beverages, we mean cooling in action and not in temperature. So we're not saying have ice cubes, like we're not recommending iced tea, in fact, because ice and cold beverages dampen digestive fire, which impacts our ability to break down whatever we're having. So we recommend beverages at room temperature or above, and then to get the cooling impact that will soothe pitta and metabolize so beautifully, we choose specific herbs that have that cooling action. So like Sierra said, that's like mint and cilantro, peppermint,
hibiscus. nuts is a good one. Coconut
Rose,
water, rose.
lavender, cardamom,
Mhm.
all of those things in tea form, as well as, like Sierra said, like pomegranate juice is a nice cooling astringent for pitta.
And related to the digestion, you want to be having these beverages between meals. You really want to do most of your hydration between meals rather than, again, dampening that digestive fire, which is called Agni in Ayurveda. If you drink a bunch of liquid while you're eating, you're basically diluting all your digestive juices, and it's essentially like throwing water on a fire. It's going to put your digestive fire out. So really focus throughout your day on sipping room temperature beverages made with cooling action plants, and it's really, really going to feel supportive and juicy, and yeah.
And then along with this idea of making sure to stay hydrated to really nourish your pitta, you want to cut back on coffee, because coffee is dehydrating to the body. So cut your coffee intake down, increase your water intake. If you are having coffee, I recommend drinking twice as many ounces of water before. So if you're having a 10-ounce coffee, drink 20 ounces of water before, because if you start your day very first thing with coffee, which is so dehydrating and nothing else, you are setting yourself back. So when you do have it, hydrate even more than you would. And if it feels possible for you to cut back, even just having less quantity of coffee, that is really going to serve Pitta dosha right now. It's going to help slow you down if you're on a track to burnout.
Yeah, I really want to speak to that, because it is, we enjoy coffee here and there. We love it. It's like anything, coffee, it's a plant, it's got a medicine to it. It's something we can be, when we're in right relation to it, it can be really potent for us. And recently I did have the experience of just doing it too often, and then really noticing what happens when you're experiencing adrenal fatigue, or, you're drinking too much coffee and it's dehydrating you and it's taxing your system. When you drink the coffee and then afterwards you're like wildly exhausted, it's really time to cut back on the coffee. It's not time to drink more.
Right.
And that's a mistake a lot of people are making. Like, again, we don't want to demonize coffee, but you have to be in right relationship with it. And, that is the moment where you cut it out and then bring it back in very small quantities, infrequently, right? Then it's a tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about ways to slow down. We've talked about ways to nourish your body. And now let's talk about how to stay cool.
So there's really, there's a few simple things you can do. Like a lot of what we're talking about is ritual, even the teas and the things like that. Like, think about these things as intentional rituals. They might seem really simple, but what it is that you're actually, being in intentionality. It's part of lifestyle design, right? So one of the things that you can do, I was like about to jump up and grab it over here.
I thought the same thing.
Should I do it?
Yeah, get it. One of the things that you can do is spritz yourself with
rose water.
With rose water throughout the day.
Rose is, in addition to being one of the highest frequency vibrations of any plant or any item, I think, on planet Earth, which, always helps. It's a refrigerant. It's really, really cooling. Rose is sacred in so many ways, but one of the things it really, really does well is soothe pitta. So again, something so simple, but it's just like this extra little piece of intentionality. It's just like this little moment that you take for yourself where you engage with a plant and cool yourself down.
And it really works. I like to tell people to keep rose water in their car. Like, if you're sitting in traffic and the sun is beating down on you and you spritz yourself with rose water, you will feel better.
You'll be nicer to other drivers.
You'll be a safer driver. It's not just something we do because it's nice for our skin, though it is. It really is something that gives you like a quick reset, and it's a mood booster, and it feels so good. And I will tell you that this is the third time I've had a spritz today.
Oh, good. Well, we won't talk about the fact that I took 2 naps. So we're just over here soothing pitta.
That's right.
Another great one is to do your exercise in the morning. Before 10 a.m. is actually so that's during kapha time of day. So between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. Kapha can be cool and a little bit dense and heavy, and you want to like get it moving. Kapha is also responsible for building and keeping us sturdy. So it's a great time to do exercises that are going to build your body. But the thing is, if you do your exercise after 10 a.m., you can be building too much heat during the pitta time of day. So if pitta begins at 10 until around 2 p.m., that time of day is already very hot and activated. So do it during a time of day that actually we need that energy. We need that heat and that activation, right?
Totally. Yes. And think of activities that might have a cooling quality. So rather than going to hot yoga in the middle or in the end of summer, pitta season,
or kickboxing,
or super intense cycling, like maybe try Pilates, maybe try yin yoga, restorative yoga, even like weightlifting, something that's just a little bit slower and more grounding. Rock climbing or bouldering, as long as the sun's not beating down on you, can be a really beautiful activity for a pitta type person, because you really get to use some of that pitta like focus and discernment, and that can feel really good.
And if you're rock climbing or hiking, if that's accessible to you, it's grounding, you're touching the earth, and it's also, which makes it really great for ojas again, which is that subtle essence of kapha. So you're really getting to, it's another way to protect it.
As well as swimming. Did we say swimming?
No, we didn't say swimming. My gosh, get in some water.
Another, being in or around water is, just like Sierra said, another way to absorb that subtle essence called ojas, to build immunity, resilience, and really replenish your padding to the world.
Yeah. And again, if you are outside, bring a hat, bring some shade, even as we're passing the equinox, even as the sun is, going to sleep a little bit, we want to protect ourselves from being in direct sunlight, because it can really provoke the pitta within us.
And you might notice, especially if you have a lot of pitta, that you feel more irritable if the direct sun is on you for too long. And even if you're not noticing that irritability directly, it is having an intense impact on your body. So be mindful of how much time you're spending in the sun, and make sure that you have shady options around to keep pitta safe.
Yeah. Should we jump down here, or should we?
Yeah. Well, I'll just also mention, we already talked a little bit about things related to food, but in terms of keeping cool, we said things like fresh fruit is great. We mentioned some beverages and soothing herbs. Something else that you can do is have fewer spicy foods. This might be obvious, but the spicy taste, which is also called pungent in Ayurveda, is heating to the body and can be very aggravating.
And so is salt. Actually, salty is the hottest taste. So like, even if it's not spicy, eating like a bag of really salty chips is gonna actually heat you up, and it can create more of these pitta symptoms like irritability, frustration, like surprisingly. So just have that awareness. Salty and spicy are going to be kind of
a little bit aggravating. So
focus on some of those,
would.
sweeter fruits and things like that are going to be the much better option right now. Also bitter, if you like bitter, bitter is also a really cooling taste. And so that comes with kale. Like if you find yourself, things like kale, like bitter greens, if you find yourself craving the bitter taste, even though it's opposite of sweet, it's also pitta soothing. So if that's more your jam, lean into the bitter taste. And by the way, that's why many people like coffee, is because it is an offering of the bitter taste.
Right.
So find some ways. You could drink dandelion tea to get that bitter flavor, and that'll also help cool you down.
And a couple other foods, vegetables that you can lean into to soothe and cool would be zucchini, sweet potato, asparagus, and fennel, along with your basmati rice and avocado and other things that we've already mentioned.
Yes. Okay. So as we've talked about, pitta is really peaking, right, at the end of summer. And that's one of the reasons why it's really important to do an Ayurvedic cleanse. Like Ayurveda recommends a seasonal cleanse, right? Like at the juncture between winter and spring to sort of clear out kapha, and then at the juncture between summer and fall to clear out pitta. And this is really, really important to clear the doshas, because if not, the doshas can lodge into your tissues and start to create some of these imbalances that we've talked about. Deeper imbalances, more sort of prolonged chronic conditions can arise.
Things like pain can be related to doshas getting kind of lodged and stuck in the body.
As well as, and it can be a combination, doshas as well as toxins, right?
That's right.
A metabolic waste that can build up throughout the season. Interestingly, during the summer, actually our digestive fire can go down because our body is spending so much time expelling heat, so much time and energy expelling the heat, that it sort of can reduce the fire in our digestive tract. So at this peak moment, it becomes really, really important to do something to shift this energy, to clear out this energy. And that's why Ayurveda recommends cleansing twice a year.
And when we say cleansing, we don't mean eating cold raw food, drinking protein powder smoothies. We mean eating a really nourishing, very simple, easy to digest diet of things like khichdi, mung soup, and broth, and giving yourself more time for rest, replenishment, and practices of body care. So if you are someone who's been feeling like, I know I need to rest more, but it's hard, a cleanse, a rejuvenating cleanse can actually be like the best thing that you can do for your mental, emotional health as well, because it's that kind of switch into doing practices for yourself again. And in the program that we offer called the Reset for Resilience, we walk everyone through different body care practices, different practices of rest that you can be doing to have that full body reset beyond just the simple mono diet, which will also help cleanse the excess doshas and toxins lodged in the body.
And then what can happen is when you go through something like this cleanse, then you're able to really alchemize or process or like metabolize anything that you're bringing in. So be that, foods or experiences, stressors, all these things that can really create toxins, if they're not alchemized properly, are going to be able to metabolize and integrate and flow through you in a way that they otherwise wouldn't. And that is really, really liberating.
Yes.
And on a physical and an emotional level. So Molly mentioned the Reset for Resilience, which is the Ayurvedic cleanse that we offer. It's an Ayurvedic cleanse for body and mind. And it's 21 days, but it's really only 5 days of detox, of intentional focused cleansing. And the reason it's 21 days is because we want to walk you through the full process. So of preparation, of how to gather your supplies, of how to set your space, all of these, ways that you can be really intentional as you move into the 5-day cleanse.
Right. As well as how you move out of the 5-day cleanse, which involves weaving things back in just kind of piece by piece over about a week. Sometimes people do a cleanse like Whole30 and then they say, okay, I'm finished. I did it. Now I'm having pizza and beer. If you do that, while your digestive system is fragile and in this reset moment, you will be back to square one.
If not worse.
If not worse. And so in this program, which is intentionally designed, we'll walk you through how to bring foods back in so that you have this lasting digestive resilience that will take you through the next 6 or 12 months until you're ready for a reset again. And we reset so that we can
Eat ice cream.
so that we can trust our bodies to digest and absorb and metabolize anything that comes our way. And that's not just food, that's experiences also. And I will tell you that after I do the reset for, I come into the reset for resilience and I'm like, I don't even know if I have time to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm like busy, I'm irritable, by people in my life are bothering me. I come out of the reset for resilience and I'm like patient again, and I'm generous again, and I'm eating what I like to eat and having no digestive challenges. So I really want to emphasize like what is possible on the other side, and how it extends into your quality of being, your quality of life, and your experience in the coming months. And that is resilience at its core. And that's why it's called Reset for Resilience, because we want to help you rebuild that padding to the world, which you have. It is part of you, and sometimes it gets depleted. You have all of the tools to bring it back up, and we just want to walk you through how to make it happen.
And the experience itself is so luscious. It can actually be done from anywhere. You can do it from home. You could go get yourself a nice little Airbnb and take a retreat. It's really quite simple. It's really about resting, taking more time for yourself, and then making yourself these really nourishing, delicious meals. So we've got khichdi, which is a combination of mung beans, which is like a lentil and basmati rice combined with spices and ghee, with some, my mouth is watering talking about it. Vegetables, and you get to use salt, you get to use lemon, like it's delicious. You'll be like, wow, why am I not eating this all the time? There's teas, there's spiced apples, there's, what am I forgetting? Mung soup really is
broth,
just
fresh herbs, juice. There's a juice component.
Juice. Yeah. We love to juice fruit and veggies. We'll guide you to juice certain produce based on what your dominant dosha is. It's really a colorful, vibrant, beautiful experience. And so, yeah, we want to invite you to join us. This one begins with gentle, low-key preparation on October 3rd. So if you want, if this sounds like something that you'd like to do, definitely reach out to us, reserve your spot. It's filling up. It's our favorite time of year, and it's become famous for its effectiveness. So hop on in.
It's so true. And if you happen to be watching this recording later, we offer this reset every October and every April.
Yeah.
So know that we're on this 6-month cycle, and our hope is to support you in your own seasonal cycles, because it just works so well.
So well. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions before we sign off? We want to really appreciate you for showing up, whether you're here currently or if you are watching afterwards. We see you. We appreciate you. We are here to answer questions always. You can, reach out to us on Instagram. It's cultivate.balance. You can reach out to us through email, either Molly or Sierra at cultivatebalance.com. And of course, our website, cultivatebalance.com. Yes, question. Oh, such a good question. How do you know your dominant dosha? So we have a quiz on our website, which we can pull up here and drop into the thing. If you go to our website, and I think if you scroll to the bottom, so if you go to cultivatebalance.com and you scroll to the bottom, there's something called quizzes. Let's see here. We're going to drop it right in. So explain maybe what the quiz does.
So we have this mind body quiz on our website. It's going to ask you questions about how you've experienced yourself kind of throughout your whole life, not just in recent moments. So how has your digestion been throughout your whole life? And we'll give kind of specifics, and you can answer a couple of choices that apply. How your mood and emotions have been throughout your entire life. What have your dreams been like throughout your entire life? And that will guide you toward typically one, maybe two doshas that are most present for you. And typically, whichever dosha is most present is the one that's most likely to go out of balance. Now, as we've said, we all have all the doshas, we all need all the doshas, and any dosha can go out of balance. So I'm a kapha dosha. My kapha, earth and water, tend to go out of balance, but when late pitta season comes around, I feel my pitta. We can all feel that fire, kind of despite what our dominant dosha is. And then for me, I use the understanding of what my dominant dosha is, what season I'm in now, what plans I have to understand how all of my doshas are interacting. And that is something that is possible for you. That's an understanding that's possible for you to develop as you continue to learn about Ayurveda, as you consider working with a practitioner. Sierra and I do see clients in a one-on-one format. And if you choose to join us for the Reset for Resilience, we also give information there about what your dominant dosha is and how that relates to modifying the cleanse. And that's a really good starting point to take some of that information in as well.
Yeah, if this is you getting to discover your dominant dosha for the first time, I am so excited for you, because it's this moment where you get to really deepen your self-love, because you're like, oh, that's why I am the way I am and why my friend is the way they are. And we don't actually need to compare ourselves or try to hold each other to, each other's standards, because everyone has their strengths, everyone has their challenges. A lot of times it's related to your dosha, and knowing your dominant dosha will invite you into like a whole new world of understanding yourself. Like you're going to read this and be like, oh my gosh, that's so me. And there's something really, I have a chill just thinking about it. It's like, there's something so powerful and again, liberating about that. And that's why we love Ayurveda. So
yes, that's why we love Ayurveda.
Yes.
Any other questions before we sign off? It's been so special to be here with all of you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for spending this time. And we will look forward to the next time. Stay in touch. And if you don't already, follow us, cultivate.balance on Instagram. We love you.
We love you.